Long, these first biblical patriarchs, they live long years, long lives. So, as you can see in this chart I made, so you can get like a reference of the years they lived and who was alive and who was not. Who settled at the Nile Delta, where they created Egyptian civilization and a synthesis of Atlantean and native influences. Okay, I know we're all over the place, but let's continue to connect. So again, in Islamic tradition, Sayyid Ahmed Amuridin has pointed out that Hermes Trismegistus, right? Hermes, right? Thoth, has a major place in Islamic tradition. He writes, Hermes Trismegistus is mentioned in the Quran in verse 19, 56, 57. Mentioned in the book of Idris that he was a truthful, a prophet. We took him up to a high place, right? Idris went to a high place. The Jabarian corpus contains the oldest documented source for the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, right? In the Muslim Arabian tradition, this is where the oldest source of the Emerald Tablet exists, of Hermes Trismegistus, right? Down in the bottom here it says, these writings, Hermes Trismegistus is identified as Idris, right? So Hermes is Idris, the infallible prophet who traveled to outer space from Egypt. He traveled to outer space just like Enoch was taken up, right? Just like Thoth was shown, and he was from the sons of men, right? And then he later became like a god. It tells us in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, right? And continuing with Idris, it says here, Idris is an ancient prophet and patriarch mentioned in the Quran, who Muslims believe was the third prophet after Adam and Seth. Islamic tradition has unanimously identified Idris with the biblical Enoch. So unanimously identified Idris with the biblical Enoch. You hear this, right? Although many Muslim scholars of the classical medieval periods also held that Idris and Hermes Trismegistus were the same person. Okay, so Hermes, Enoch, Idris, all same person. All right. So we haven't got into Islam and how Thoth helped create this, but as you can see already, Hermes has a lot of influence in this Islamic tradition. So we're gonna get into this a little more in depth later. So let's continue. So it says here, Idris is identified as the first of three Hermeses. The first, Hermes al-Haramisa, Hermes, invented the alphabet, writing, tailoring, medicine, and astronomy, just like Thoth did, right? Inventor of writing and medicine and astronomy. This Hermes also built the eponymous pyramids, right? Just like they give the credit to Thoth and Enoch and other sources. And it says, the second one, the Babylonian Hermes, master of Pythagoras, taught math, science, and philosophy. Again, Hermes and Thoth, same thing. The third, Egyptian Hermes, was a builder of cities and master of alchemy. In Manichaeism, Hermes was one of the 5 major prophets before Mani. The oldest extant version of Hermes Trismegistus' Emerald Tablet is ascribed to Jabir ibn Hayyan. Again, the Emerald Tablet, as it says here, is also known as the Smaragdine Tablet, or the Tabula Smaragdina. It's a compact encrypted piece of Hermetica reputed to contain the secret of the prima materia and its transmutation. You hearing this? It was highly regarded by European alchemists as the foundation of their art and its Hermetic tradition. The original source of the Emerald Tablet is unknown, it says here, but we know it's from Thoth. Although Hermes Trismegistus is the author named in the text. Okay, again, Hermes, who is Thoth. And we continue with Idris. It says here, the relationship between the name Idris and Hermes, right, / Thoth, may rest on the name of Hermes' initiatory guide, Poimandris, in the ancient Greek corpus Hermeticum. Although the form of the name Idris is not a recognized Arabic word, its etymological root, drs, means to teach. The prophet mentioned of Idris as the first to use the pen conforms to Egyptian iconography of Thoth, right? The first to write, the first to use the pen. Also, Enoch is giving credit to the first one to write down, or the first one to write down a book, like the Book of Enoch. Who combined, it says here, Continuing, who combined with the Greek Hermes became Hermes Trismegistus. So it says the prophet's mention of Idris as the first to use the pen conforms to Egyptian iconography of Thoth, who combines with the Greek Hermes, became Hermes Trismegistus. The narrative of Idris' cunning entry into paradise parallels the Homeric hymn to Hermes, where Hermes elevates himself into the Olympian pantheon by offering a sacrifice to himself. So you hear this. So not only Thoth goes up to and gets shown heaven, Enoch as well, Idris as well. Right now we're seeing Hermes' version of his story. Right, he goes up to the Olympian pantheon. Right, so we all know that these are the same people, same character. That's why they have the same story. All right, so we're following on. Let's continue. Says here, by the 10th century, Abu Mashar al-Bakhi identified Idris as the biblical Enoch and Hermes Trismegistus. Okay, hearing this? Hermes al-Mutala bil-Hikmah, the legendary Greek figure associated with the Egyptian god Thoth. The historian Mas'udi identified Enoch as Idris the prophet and the Hermes of the Sabians. These associations were echoed by the bibliographer Ibn Nadim and the polymath of Al-Biruni, 973 to 1050, who equated Idris with Mercury, the Buddha, and Hermes. You hear this? Again, Mercury, we already knew that. Now we add in Buddha into the picture, and we're going to see this later on as well. Now, before we continue referencing Enoch, it's a touchy subject, so just want to remind everybody here, in case some people might not know. So as it says in Genesis 4:17, it says, and Cain knew his wife. So after he was banished from Eden and he went to the land of Nod, he said he had a wife. Some say it was his daughter or his sister, right? And she conceived and bare Enoch. And he builded a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. So as you can see the line here of Adam on the top, you can see Cain had an Enoch, and then there's also an Enoch under Seth. So usually when we're talking about Enoch or the book of Enoch or anything like that, we usually think it's in reference to the son of Seth, Enoch, and not the one from Cain. So which one are we talking about when we're referencing Enoch to Thoth and Idris and all this? Is the son of Seth or the son of Cain? It's something we have to figure out, but we have to leave this possibility open, right? Alright, so let's continue. From the author of this book, Genesis 6, I believe it's called, it says, Thoth was the keeper of the magical arts that made him the master of the gods, the one who revealed all knowledge of the 7 sacred sciences. You're going to see 7 related to Thoth a lot. 7, as well as Enoch and Idris and all these people and Hermes. So the 7 sacred sciences and religion to humankind. Alright, so he revealed the 7 sacred religions to humankind. So it says Thoth was the one who transmitted mystical secrets to his obscure followers, members of a reticent snake order we will examine later. Thoth too was regarded to be the deity credited with being the god of wisdom, the inventor of letters and writing. Thoth was transformed into the god through wisdom. It says Thoth was transformed into a god through wisdom, so he was made into a god, right? Again, he wasn't a god in the beginning. We know also from other sources that Thoth invented hieroglyphics and was the one who brought science, geometry, and architecture to humankind. Okay, you're hearing this? So Thoth was further celebrated as the Greek Hermes. There you go again. The Greeks and Romans identified Hermes with their pantheistic god Mercury. Mercury was the patron deity of learning, the chosen scribe for the Pt.3 of God. Scribe, just like Thoth, just like Enoch, scribe. He served as their ordained messenger, again consistent with that of Enoch's responsibilities. Mercury was the son of Zeus, Jupiter, Maya. Mercury was also attributed with the invention of writing. In addition, Mercury signed sentences onto the souls of the dead. And continues here, Ungers recites a similar version, conceding Hermes was Mercury and that Hermes was the son of the god Zeus. So we read, and the Nephilim daughter of Atlas, a person named Nalat. So we read earlier that Hermes was the grandson of Atlas. So Zeus is the son of Atlas, if he's his dad, as we read here. It says, continues, Ungers further claims Hermes wore winged sandals, eerily identical to medical snake motifs, as well as wings on his head, all the while being a guide for the dead into the underworld, just like Thoth. Even though Enoch was rendered to be Hermes, Thoth, among the Egyptians, and Mercury was Enoch's appellation among the Greeks, Enoch was also known as Hermes among the